The following episode of the Carnival of Randomness is sponsored by an important message to you, the people, from Upsitnik and Associates. Every day there are forces that are taking from you, stealing from you. Your money, your time, your freedom. Immense faceless corporations, banks, credit card companies, insurance providers, government agencies, this list goes on and on. When you are under attack and facing crisis, turn to us, Upsitnik and Associates, attorneys for you, the people. When every day becomes a battle, we can advise and assist. We have been advocates for 40 years. Email us through upsitnikslaw.com or call us at 1-866-391-3299 or reach out to us through Upsitnik and Associates on Facebook for a prompt, no obligation communication and consultation. Don't be pushed around.
Hello, everybody. Carnival of Randomness again, and we're in my castle with my flying monkeys. I'm in my splendid isolation, and my dog's getting sick of hearing about the philosophy of Soren Kierkegaard, and I'm getting tired of watching The Adventures of Superman. I can't think of anything to say. So, luckily, the trail of breadcrumbs leads some interesting guests to my door. So, luckily, somebody's come to visit me in my wickedness. So, hi, Stephanie.
Hi, Robert. Thank you for having me.
Can you say a little about yourself? Am I pretty?
Oh, of course, Rob. Of course. The prettiest. The prettiest in the castle of flying monkeys. So thank you so much for having
your dog,
me.
Too.
I'm a freelance artist. I'm an illustrator and an instructor. I own Black Rose Studios. And I'm looking to expand the business into teaching at hospitals, community centers, senior centers, and I'm also creating a comic called Black Rose, which I named my business after.
That's pretty cool. Good tie-ins and everything. But the thing is also, too, you're all over the map and doing things. And it's nice to have people on who, basically, my idea of doing anything now is getting up. Okay, does the dog have to go out? Mm-hmm. Shall we get takeout? Everything on. So one of the things you started doing, though, is I know you've done into cooking a lot.
Yes, definitely.
And I know this probably cut it off a little bit. You were doing sort of a catering business.
A little bit, yeah. But unfortunately, I didn't have the proper credentials, so I kind of cut that off.
But how did you get interested in that? Was this something you've learned by yourself at home that...
Well, I started... my interest honestly started with the Food Network. I absolutely love watching Iron Chef, Good Eats, and just it blossomed. And actually I got accepted to the Culinary Institute of America, but I decided to hold off on that to pursue my art business. But you know, one day I might go back.
I had heard when I worked at Mr. G's, one of the cooks there, he got into the one, I think it was in Hyde Park, the one around there.
Yep, that
and
one.
What he said, one of his relatives said, the one thing you have to do was to do it on a cruise ship sometime, whereas I thought, that's like a plague ship. I've heard so many people got sick. But he said, do a residency, and I know he got accepted, and he went, and I lost touch with him. But I think I saw him one time on Facebook, and I sent him messages to say, hi, how you doing, and that he's actually a chef somewhere.
That is so cool.
But you missed Two Fat Ladies, though, on Food Network. It's one of my... Google it sometime. It's one of the funniest shows.
Two Fat Ladies?
Yeah.
Oh my
God. It's a British show. It's just... They are the most... Like, somebody one time, they bought bacon sandwiches, and they asked the person selling them, how are they? And she said, I'm a vegetarian. They jumped back.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, those poor people.
But Iron Chef, we used to do a drinking thing, like with Sakai or somebody, or...
I love Sakai.
He was my favorite, though. Sakai was always my favorite. And they never picked him enough, I would think.
I don't think so, either. My favorite was... I had the biggest crush on Masaharu Morimoto.
Oh, Morimoto.
I still have a crush on him.
One of the things that got me, too, was the giant peaches in Japan.
Giant peaches?
There's one episode where they do peaches, and I guess peaches, like if you go in Japan, they're very expensive.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But there's ones that are the size of basketballs they worked with, if you could find the episode.
Yeah, I'll have to look for it now.
And I guess they grow up in the mountains. And, you know, it's how different. It's like, for example, somebody when I was working at bars was here from Missouri, and he was saying being up here, we don't get apples down there, but the steaks are incredible. It's like where you live in the country.
Yeah. I mean, I've always heard steaks from, you know, obviously the more grass-fed and natural, you know, livestock you have, the better the product is going to be.
But I know one of the things you did was shepherd's pie a lot.
That's one of my favorites.
Did you have a particular style that you liked, or did you just jump all over the map?
So I actually got the recipe from Good Eats. It was actually an episode based on the movie Sweeney Todd, which was hilarious.
Yes, people will get that. Just don't explain it to them.
If you know the show, you know exactly what's going on. But they did it in such a light and fun way, and I got the recipe from there. But over time, I looked at different shepherd's pie recipes and kind of tailored it.
That would actually be for Halloween parties perfect.
It would be perfect. But I also had to get rid of the peas and corn because my dad hates peas and corn, as do I. I don't like peas and corn, so no, none of those.
I actually have
pies.
one friend who's allergic to corn.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never heard of anyone who's allergic to corn.
Well, that's actually an interesting thing you don't think about, that if you're a chef or you cook, and you actually don't like something and somebody orders it, you have to sort of like bite the bullet.
And just take it. It's like, ugh. Like, I personally, one of my least favorite foods, and this is very controversial, I hate peanut butter. So it's like if someone ever wants peanut butter cookies, I'm like...
You are not the only one. There's a lot of people who don't like it.
I've met a few, and I'm surprised. Pleasantly surprised.
Well, the comment, if you ever want to like get somebody who goes off on you about peanut butter, say, do you like rat turds? Because one of my friends said this to somebody he knew, that he said, well, rat turds fall on it when they're making it.
Ew. I mean, in some places, I'm sure. I won't order from them. Actually, I just won't order. I don't care if you have the cleanest peanut butter in the world. I don't want it.
No, and I have like one of my good friends for years. He's not allergic. He just doesn't like chocolate. Does not like the taste.
I know someone like that, too.
Because otherwise you're a chocolate allergy.
What is it like? Is it the chocolate you're allergic to?
He just doesn't.
Dairy?
I have no idea, but he just does not like the taste.
Interesting. Because there are a lot of different kinds of chocolate, and I actually learned that dark chocolate is actually worse for dogs, not just because it's like chocolate, but just because, well, actually it has more cocoa in it. So the higher the concentration of milk to chocolate, you can actually give it to dogs just fine. But if it's dark chocolate, the darker the chocolate, the worse it is for them.
Yeah. I know, like, my dog scarfed a couple peanut butter cups when I wasn't looking at it.
Oh, no.
She was fine.
Well, yeah. I think because that's also fake chocolate.
Oh, probably. But speaking of that, did you have any desserts that you've gotten into making, too? Because
Yeah.
I've never really seen those as much as the main courses.
So there's this one chocolate. It's essentially a really fancy chocolate pudding I like to make. It's French, so of course it's fancy. It's called pot de crème, and it is
Pot de crème.
pot de crème. If you say it with a French inflection.
Remember, in France, it doesn't matter what you do as long as you pronounce it right. I learned that years ago.
Good to know. I'll keep that in mind because I'm trying to learn French. But it's a really fancy light pudding, and it's dark chocolate based, and it has like raspberries and a homemade whipped cream and maybe a mint sprig. It's very, very good, very rich, and I love making it. I also love making these lemonade tarts. So it's just phyllo cups with a mix of lemon juice, sweetened condensed milk, and a couple other things I can't remember off the top of my head. We just put it into these tarts, bake them off in the oven, top them with the raspberry, let them chill.
I suck with phyllo pastry.
It's hard to use. That and puff pastry are some of
Puff
the
pastry,
things.
it's like I tried with one thing and I'm pulling it out. It's falling apart,
Falls
going
apart.
all around like it's wilting. Pieces all over. Then it found places all over the house afterwards on the dog.
Really?
It's like, when you get those little stars or something and you think you clean them up, those sprinkly stars,
Yep.
but they haunt you for months. It's
So
like
it just never
the
ends.
ghost of the puff pastry.
Yep. Or if you have kids and they're using glitter and you find it for like 3 years.
Oh, but do you have a favorite particular dish you like to make?
That I love to make, it honestly would probably be shepherd's pie. It's just it's so fun, and you can really, there's a lot of creative liberty you can have with it. But I like making chocolate lava cakes. Those are fun too. And I always wondered when I was a kid, like, how do they get the lava in there? And then I realized as you
Well,
got
they go to a
older-
volcano and
They
they
go
just
to
suck it out
volcano.
with a straw.
But don't let it touch your mouth. But it's like, or they use a metal straw. I would have probably believed that as a kid. I was very gullible.
I probably too, when you hear lava, you think it's going to erupt.
Exactly. It's like, no, it just kind of goes. Pfft.
Yeah, it does. It sort of looks like one of these things, and then
Yeah.
the phone comes out. But to have one that would erupt would be awesome if you could rig it like that.
Oh my gosh, can you imagine the lawsuits?
Oh.
With molten hot chocolate, like just spraying over everyone.
It would be like in Willy Wonka, the sequel or
Oh
something.
my gosh, that's
It
horrible.
would be really funny, though, I think. But that's something to look forward to, because I know you were doing this and it was going pretty well, and then with quarantine, everything else.
Yes.
But it was like a perfect buy too. It's like being lazy. Call Stephanie.
Call Stephanie. Steph the chef. We decided on that name
Oh,
because it
perfect.
rhymes. Steph the chef.
Just hopefully that won't be a thing like Karen's or like, well, it's a chef. It's a Steph.
It's like no. Just
That's all they do now is they come up with names for everything.
They really do.
That are silly. And I've had heard about being robbed all the years, so screw all of you, you know, what the heck.
Robbed.
But in
That's
terms of,
funny.
we're getting into a segue of some other things you do you do any specific Irish dishes?
Shepherd's pie.
Well, that's Irish, yes. Where do you kill the shepherds in Rochester? They're hard to find.
There are no shepherds in Rochester. It's such a shame. I mean, so, any other Irish dishes? Not really. I make a lot of pasta. I try to make a lot of Italian dishes. I love making pasta dishes because a lot of the sauces are so...
Did you make like chicken French and stuff like that?
I've made chicken French before, yeah. And it's
How did you teach it if you were just learning?
How would I teach it?
If you were teaching it French, you just learned French.
I'm still learning French. I can't...
So you're doing it with them, too. You're helping practicing on the chicken, teaching it French.
I'm teaching the chicken French, yes.
Yes.
I'm teaching the sauce and everything. Just everything's learning French.
Or artichokes fresh.
Artichokes, actually, this is a really random fact. Did you know artichokes are actually a flower that have not bloomed yet? They pluck them before they bloom.
Much like my life.
Same!
I didn't know that. I didn't actually know that they'd... They
bloom.
They would look like the things in Invasion of the Body Snatchers, almost, if they bloomed.
Kind
you
of.
know, the pods.
Right.
But I've never seen one. Now I'm sure there's tons of them online. I
There's
need
a
a
lot.
picture of an artichoke.
They're really pretty. They kind of look like a thistle, almost.
And you could see that because they're sort of sharp a little bit if you get the wrong one, the big globe ones.
Mm-hmm. And they have, like, purple flowers, kind of like a thistle, too. Except, I think artichokes are prettier, and they taste good.
I've seen them, actually. I've seen a couple that probably almost ready to bloom have gone. You take them and they're purple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or, chives. Chives are like that. You can actually... A chive flower will bloom, and it's purple and fluffy, and it tastes
We
like
could go on all about, like, things we eat. We don't let them bloom and look pretty. Because that's interesting. I really didn't know that. See, you learn something new all the time.
Yeah, it's fun. Food is fun, and a lot of other chefs will say food is also sexy. I'm like, okay.
But I could imagine, like, if you're at culinary school, how you would deal with a Gordon Ramsay or somebody.
Well,
and I've heard stories. One of my friend Carlos he was on one of the cooking shows, and literally he did very well, except he burned himself, and he was off. And people were glad because he burned himself in a quite sensitive area. But people were glad that he got off because he's really good.
Yeah.
He's been doing this his whole life.
Wow.
But he told me stories. I asked him about Gordon Ramsay because the real Gordon Ramsay, it's more for show in America.
Yeah.
But he says he's had chefs come at him with knives and everything else. And reading Bourdain's book, Kitchen Confidential, when I worked at a restaurant, he goes through working at a restaurant one day in one chapter, and I thought this was perfect. We had some temperamental characters.
Yikes. I mean, it's scary. Food service is really, really tough. And these chefs, they're tough on you because they want you to be good, like a drill sergeant, essentially.
Yeah. The whiplash of chefs. It's like they throw
much.
pots at you and everything.
God, it's like, I know. And actually, when my dad, I have an uncle who went to the CIA, and he knew a guy who
you can't
was
really
cocaine-
talk about that, can you, if he was in a federal agency? Because I used to work in D.C.
The Culinary Institute of America, Rob. Not. I know, it's like, how many CIAs are there? There's the
Celestial Intervention Agency from Doctor Who.
The Cleveland Institute.
But how did it
of
go
Art.
from there? Was it?
Oh, he loved it. He really enjoyed it. But he knew a guy who was turning over a steak with a fork, and the chef was not happy. The chef came over and said, "What the hell are you doing to that steak?" And the chef asked him, "Why don't we turn?" Or, I'm sorry, Okay, I'll just get to the point. The chef ended up stabbing this guy in the hand with a fork. I was like, that's why we don't.
You ever
poke a
want to
fork
get in
with a
trouble,
steak.
go to a real expensive restaurant, say a French restaurant.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And go there, get your meal, and just go, oh, can I have some ketchup?
Oh my gosh.
They'll be holding somebody back.
Oh my gosh.
They would have gotten my dad. My dad would have ordered bologna and onions and wanted ketchup or something.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, not in France. Don't do that in France, my God.
I think even like Janine for like a vino, I think they have an Avino burger. I think they give you ketchup
Really?
then. But I know, like, for example, some chefs like Nicholas Grammatico with his sushi place. I remember going, and I know Nick, and talking, and he said there was one sushi he made, and he said, I can't stand when people put soy. I take this, there's a sauce I make, I leave it in my basement for 6 months.
Really?
And if you put anything on it, so I hate when people ask to put wasabi or anything on it because they don't appreciate the taste.
Okay, fair enough. I mean...
And some of that sushi chef things, Euro Dreams of Sushi, it's a documentary. You couldn't even work on the fish until 10 years apprenticeship.
I've heard of that.
You started with towels, and this guy's brilliant. It's if you ever want to watch a fantastic documentary, you start with towels, then they let you massage the octopus. You're not a chef. Can you imagine in America if somebody took you under the wing and said, okay, 10 years from now we'll let you start, but you have to work your way up and be really good.
I mean, I understand like the thought process, but it's crazy. But I understand.
It is, but that's the one really since we've met many, many years ago, far away in a galaxy somewhere else. I love the diversity of what you do. You seem like you find passions and you go for them, which is, I think, it shows in all your work and everything you do.
Thank
too.
you.
It's not just, blah.
I do try to get my hands into everything I can. I love...
Hey, don't say it like that. Next time you go to a store, they'll be...
Oh my God. I'll be like... to never go to a buffet,
and
right?
we know, obviously, we try to keep this upbeat. We don't want to go blah. So it's been a crappy year pretty much for certain reasons. Not unexpected. And one thing I've been asking guests is, okay, when this all hit, what was your reaction a little bit in terms of life was going to change? Did you think it was going to be like my friend Alyssa Trahan? She thought it'd be over by May and she'd be back touring.
Yeah.
I thought maybe by Easter. But all of a sudden, your life shuts down. I know for you, and we'll get into this now, one of the other things you've been doing for a heck of a long time is Irish dancing.
Yes.
And unbelievable to me. My last outing was on St. Patrick's Day. And the parade was canceled. Everything was canceled. What I did, I went out with my friend Alicia. Her husband Ryan plays in a band 1916.
Oh, very cool.
So I was debating and going, yes, no. I know Tommy Burnett. It was at Iron Smoke. Okay, he's cutting the capacity. I got there early, just in case. And I remember Tommy telling me, like, we just about filled capacity. And it went well. It could be. But, everything changed. And I stopped at Wegmans in Penfield. I noticed all the bread was gone.
Yep. Just everything was
It was the bread, though, in Penfield. I didn't go by. I mean, the whole thing. Yeah, I'm going to settle down and maybe I won't be able to go out for a couple months. Let's see, I can eat toilet paper.
Right, yeah.
When I'm a model now, because I've heard the horror story that some models to stay thin eat tissue.
Ew. Yeah, or sawdust. I've heard that too.
Yeah, well, they have hot dogs. I hate hot dogs. Oh, that's the thing too. Is there any other food you don't like? Just to be
tomatoes.
Wow, a lot of people. Okay, this is not a trick question. You don't like tomatoes, but you like sauce.
I like it if it doesn't have chunks of tomato in it. And I'm Italian too, and I really...
My friend Mark Rialdi, who there's no more Italian than Mark Rialdi.
Not really.
He does not... He will but he just hates tomatoes. And what I've heard too from some people, they look like they're unformed little embryos or something.
That's an interesting way of looking at it. I mean, I personally like the appeal, and I like the smell of tomatoes too, like fresh ones. I think they're a very pretty thing. I just don't like the taste. I can't.
See, that's the thing, and people. I always tell people that's like on here in terms of music, art, everything else. You like what you like, and some people. What gets me is some people will flip. It's like on anything these days. It's like you can get political about food. What, you don't like this?
It's like, what's wrong with you?
You're wrong. You're.
It's like, okay, thanks. Or it's like, I remember you made a post on Facebook. It was just to prove people will argue about anything. Here's a rock. Here's a picture of a rock.
And I had people arguing about me. It's a switch. It's a stick. No matter what. If I argued, like if I put something up saying, I remember trips with my mom when I was a kid going to the Royal Scot, and what I remember most is strawberry shortcake. Mm-hmm. And so if I put up about strawberry shortcake, somebody would like say I'm going to block me and say that I'm offensive because it's not cherry pie. I guarantee these days.
Because it's not cherry pie. There was another parody of that where someone said, I like apples, but I don't like oranges. And then there was a post below it saying, So you're saying apples are better than oranges? Well, what about bananas and strawberries and raspberries? It's like,
This is true. This is true. I went to the dark side for a while in college, and I took some law classes.
Oh, fun.
This was a literal question on a bar exam. Okay, you get to choose from fruits. Okay, there's strawberries, apples, pears, oranges. There's a correct answer. Now, what would you choose if you had between strawberries and apples? What would you choose?
like, what was my favorite?
It'll say what's your favorite fruit, and say strawberries or apples. What would you pick?
I prefer strawberries.
Okay, you're right. Here's the reasoning behind it. The idea, and this is talk about like stereotypes and everything.
Oh, this should be good.
It's the idea. The law professor said they thought people who came more from an upper middle class background might do better in law. Strawberries were more of a fruit that they would prefer, or apples were looked upon as blue collar.
What?
This is true. I swear this was in Mrs. Murphy's law class back in school. And she said this. She said there was actually a right answer. And then one guy, I think his parents had money, he blurted out, but I like apples.
Oh, I bet that felt awkward.
And again, it's like whatever you like.
I don't hate...
Reagan ate, he was rich, he was president. He ate jelly beans, for goodness sake.
I don't hate apples. I like apples. I like Granny Smiths. Oh gosh, but I don't like empires. Does that mean something?
Oh, you might have a bone to pick with somebody afterwards.
Oh, boy.
You never know. But Irish dancing now, how did you get into this? The old joke with my friend Colette was if you're Irish, you were born doing it out of the womb. Shockingly, it's like, you're not Irish.
I'm not Irish. I'm Italian German. But when I was a kid, we lived in Gates, and we went to St. Helens Church. And every year they would have their annual festival, and they had Irish dancers there. And they also gave adult lessons. So my mom decided to try it, and she said, okay, well, let me try, because it was just me and my older sister at the time who were doing tap and ballet. And my mom's like, okay, well, if I like it, then I'll get them into it. And her and I got into it, and then my younger sister got into it, then my brother got into it, and right now it's just me and my mom mostly doing it. But, so all of us did it for years and years and years, and I love it.
I know you competed in tournaments and everything.
Oh, we still compete.
That's how is the school and everything during this crazy stuff now? Because I'm sure you go around. I remember seeing a couple times back when I worked at bars, the Irish dancers come around.
Yep.
And
so the
only people sober were in the bar.
Pretty much, yeah, and that wasn't even all the time. I've seen some drunk bartenders. But,
St. Patrick's Day. We could have another episode on St. Patrick's Day.
We'll have to. About the stories.
Oh, yeah. I found, the extra bar back we had was passed out on the stairs drunk. Remember, I worked at a bar on East Avenue, so during the parade, what would happen, we'd get there around 10.
Yeah.
If it was cold, people started coming in,
yep.
and you made a lot of money, but by the end of the day, you were absolutely frazzled out.
Oh, my God.
Or I could think my friend Patrick Carroll, and Carroll's, that's like a legit Irish bar. I'm sure it was jammed. It's like on Ren Day for Patrick.
Yep.
Jammed on Ren Day.
Crazy.
People wouldn't think about that. It's Boxing Day, Feast of Stephen. It's the day after Christmas. But at Carroll's Irish Pub, they have Ren Day, and it's beyond packed out the door.
That's insane.
And then how did you do that in some places? You come in to dance, there's a bunch of drunks, it's packed.
You make it work.
you get on a table.
We haven't done that yet. I've heard of people doing it, but we haven't had to do that yet.
That's one of my pet peeves, because I've seen musicians, like a guitarist from the Fleshstones, jumped on a table at Abilene, and all I could think was, somebody's going to fall off.
Someone's going to get hurt.
Actually, Glenn Tilbrook from Squeeze, he played at Milestones. He got on the bar instead of walking down the bar. No, he did fine. He did good, but can you imagine, somebody falling off? Because I've seen people fall off stage.
I think a worst case scenario would be if you knocked over someone's drink. Now, I have seen people knock over drinks, and there is just chaos ensues. You don't mess with someone's drink.
Oh, no. No, did you ever go to Caverly's?
No, I don't think so.
That was my Dan. Shout out to Dan, John Adams. That was my last hangout before I pretty much gave up the booze and everything. Oh, very Irish pub. Dan's very active in the Hibernian Society.
Yep. And
they've had people in there. I'm surprised they never had Irish dancers. I'll have a bone to pick with them if he's ever.
Well, they may have had Irish dancers that just wasn't the Rochester Academy, which is our school.
Now, what is the dance actually called? Is there something is it a certain, because it's all I could think of is mostly river dance. That's
So
all I
there
can
are
think of.
so there are different
You jump
dances.
around.
Really, right? But there are different dances. So soft shoe dances, the soft shoes we call gillies, and there are slip jigs and reels, and jigs, of course. And then when you get into the hard shoes, the ones that make noise, there are hornpipes, treble jigs, slow hornpipes, slow treble jigs, and fast hornpipes and fast treble jigs. But then there are traditional and contemporary set pieces. The traditional ones have been done the same ways for hundreds of years with only slight variations. So, for example, there's a set piece called St. Patrick's Day. You could do the traditional version with someone from a different school across the country. You're going to do it the same way.
Oh, that's
So,
good. Also, too, that's interesting history because I wonder, like, what the oldest one recorded would go back as. Because everything comes on. So somebody probably stepped on fire, started jumping around. Oh, wow, it's a cool dance.
That's so cool.
And then it started, because, like, it's how tales are told. It starts as one thing, and I love the origins of things. It probably started out as something. Somebody picked up on it. And then the traditional thing holds there. Somebody adds their own twist. Like, then I'll do this.
Well, there were there were these guys called dance masters who would go from town to town and dance, and then other dance masters would like challenge them and stuff, and that's kind of how it started, with these masters going from town to town and dancing.
The one I think about is the Bull McCabe in the field where they start doing the dance, and there's one woman there she's a redhead, so she's cursed. Nobody wants to dance with her. They won't, so he goes, the Bull McCabe will dance with her. He does this reel bouncing around with the shillelagh and everything.
That is cool. Oh, I'll have to find that.
But also, too, there's probably some fun, and don't you do, like, the costumes? Your mom probably helps with the costumes. And do you come up with a concept for them? Or,
Yep.
Because I've seen some of them, and they're pretty cool. They're all, like...
Every dance dress is, at least solo dress, are school dresses, but every solo dress is unique to the dancer. No two solo dresses are the same, and my mom, she did make my last one. Now this is kind of an unpopular opinion, I love spiders. I find them really fascinating.
I do too, actually. I think a lot of people do or don't. It comes back to, my mom used to iron in the basement. So I would go down there sometimes. I had my comic books and everything. There was this, my mom even told me, she's ironing, there's a windowsill. There's a spider there and she's going to kill it. She kept looking and she was watching it do the web.
Aww.
And it just looks so neat the way, and I had one by my computer and I left it, it nabbed every fly. Left me alone. Not like the one little bastard that bit me.
It's like that one.
Wow, it's black and red. Wow, it's swelling up and turning purple.
Like, that looks cool. I should probably call the hospital, though.
But like even tarantulas, they're sort of cute. Everything's cute
cool.
this way like that. Some people like snakes. I know some people.
I like snakes. I think they're cool.
Great.
I know. But I
saw that it had like a little spider.
There's a spider on my dance dress, and some of the little ones at the dance school helped me name him. So his name is Mr. Dr. Albert Legs the Fourth. No, he's Mr. Dr. Albert Legs the Third. I'm sorry. His son is Mr. Dr. Albert Legs the Fourth.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
It's a mouthful.
Plus, it also probably keeps, when you have competition, they probably walk away from you, a lot of them, when they see that.
Actually, I've had some little kids come up to me and say, I love the spider on your dress.
I don't know if you're familiar with it, but Beetlejuice, I love Winona Ryder.
Yep.
And Lydia Dietz in Beetlejuice, I think if you look at some of the things she wore, that reminds me of that.
It's similar, a little bit, yeah. And for this last, we call it a Oireachtas, it's our regional championship. My mom changed the sleeves on my dress to lace, so it looked even more like a spider theme, which was kind of
One
cool.
of my friends did one for Halloween where I guess like he just dressed up as a spider.
Oh, that's so cool.
And he had like his son as the spider baby giving out candy and everything.
That is so cool.
But that's fun. It's just, I think you have fun with it. But you've traveled for this, haven't you?
Yes.
Have you been to Ireland for it at
I've
all?
never been to Ireland. I've never I've never qualified to do anything over in Ireland. I mean, there were a couple competitions I could have done, but it's just expensive.
Oh, yeah, that's part of the problem and everything,
it's so
too.
pricey.
It's like, I know, like, for Girls Rock Rochester, my friend Amanda was saying they're trying to, because it's hard now, it's really hard. Anyway,
travel.
but has there been some place, like, I never say best of, but something that stands out, like, as a trip?
So we call it our every November we call it our annual pilgrimage to Philadelphia for Oireachtas, and that's always fun to me. I love going there, but my favorite, and Rochester Academy, we also have a fesh, which is just a local competition. we would have it at the Cirque at Brockport. Unfortunately, we couldn't have it this year. But there's also another one called Fesh at the Falls, which is in Niagara Falls. That's one of my favorite feshes to do because you can walk across to Canada. You can see the falls.
Maybe not now.
Maybe not now. But you can also go to the casino. You can go to Seneca Niagara and gamble and have dinner, and it's just a blast.
That's cool. And I mean, that was literally the week before this hit. I was planning to go to Philly. I make a pilgrimage every year to Philly to see my friend Kim, and now we're maybe plotting over Labor Day.
Very cool.
If they don't put up like walls with this like New York or whatever else.
Well, if New York gets divided like they want to.
Yeah, that or what am I supposed to, unlike some like government officials, I have to quarantine for 14 days.
Right.
But I loved going down to Philly. The only thing for me for Philly is being from here, as you know, down there, you get down there and you hit that traffic. And I'm like saying things that would make the angels blush going like on the roads here. And the thing about Philly drivers is I know it's like you go on 490. I swear my head off, you know that. But what happens, I get down, I hit Philly proper almost. You're going by the King of Prussia Mall, so there's a big... It's packed, but they're so slow you can get in other lanes. But they don't start at lights like the way we would, which is a good thing in some ways. But sometimes you're just going... Get on with it. And then the roads are so packed.
Yeah.
So I'll leave my car outside her house and I won't get back into it till let her drive. And she's like the most dangerous driver I've ever been around.
Really?
Yeah, I guess you learn.
Oh my gosh.
But there's plenty. I like Philly a lot. The diversity of the food.
It's really
We always sit in there's like an Italian restaurant there. I think it's called the Three Triangles. Been there since 1938.
Wow. Well, we're usually at the Philadelphia Downtown Marriott, but we're there over Thanksgiving, so the traffic isn't as bad, because, everyone's home, usually. But we go to the Reading Terminal Market, which is always a blast, and there's this art supply store down there called Blix that I always go to every year.
We went to the jail there, too, for Halloween, where I guess Al Capone was there, and now I forget the name of the jail, but it's like a famous jail. Al Capone was there, and even there, you see his cell. He had the amenities. He had the books and everything.
Wow.
But I guess they do a ghost tour of that later on.
Is the prison still used?
No. But I guess they tell the story about the guy who climbed over the wall. But they do tours now.
Whoa.
And it's really sort of creepy, like seeing it, walking through all the places. And I forget the name of it, but it's the jail there.
That is so cool.
Whatever.
Do you think if they opened up some of these old jails and like put them into full use, but they were still haunted, do you think that would deter crime a little bit?
Might be like me. It might be cool. It's like, wow, I'm gonna go
to a haunted jail.
I'm gonna learn from the best. It's like pop up, teach me how to. It depends how you feel. It would creep people out because it's like you go in some buildings, you get that weird feeling about them. I mean, we did a ghost tour out by Bethlehem in New York, went to Rolling Hills Asylum. And some people, like one of my friends got freaked out. She was laying in the morgue and she felt like...
That's creepy. But it makes you wonder if it would be a good crime deterrent.
Some people will go, this is cool. I'm going to learn from the best.
Not if you had to be there for like 5 years. Like, I mean, being there for one night is one thing, but, being there for like 5 years or something, it might drive you crazy.
Yeah, it might be. How long have you been here? Like The Shining, you've always been here.
I've never seen The Shining.
Well, trust me. Some people know the line.
I'll have to.
One of the things you've been lucky...
I know the red rum.
Yeah.
The red rum.
Yeah, the little kid red rum. But luckily for you, too, one of the big things you do with graphics, drawing, you've been able to do that, obviously, during this, so you don't go totally stir crazy.
Yes, absolutely. I've been working a lot on my comic, Black Rose. I've had a lot more time to work on it. In fact, it's going to be reaching its conclusion.
I have my bag of Stephanie stuff here.
Yay!
And here is actually, what did I get from you? The first one.
The first one. This is, and the plot changed a little bit, so this is like a first edition one you have right here.
Well, it's on eBay after this.
It's on eBay, right? When I hit it big, we'll see. But the plot did change a little bit over time. It was supposed to end differently, but it is coming to its conclusion fairly soon. But I have a sequel planned, which I'm really excited about, because Black Rose I didn't plan out very well. I was kind of just going along and having a vague idea of what I wanted to do.
How did you get into all this? Did you just start taking an interest when you were young, scribbling? I mean, younger, scribbling away, like trying to draw and just pick up? Or
I mean, I've always I've always really liked to draw, but I wouldn't say I got serious about it till I was probably about maybe 15, and I didn't start making the comic until my very first drafts, I would say, were in 2013, 2014, and it was so much different. But I'm really glad I started it, and it's helped me become a better artist.
And I think the part, too, you were pretty much self-taught.
Yes.
And I'm very big for this. Some people, I think we all go a different way, but I think when you do that, maybe you ask some people for advice, but you develop your own style. You're not like cookie cutter.
Definitely.
Like you're supposed to do this. Like one of my big complaints now for teams like Seattle hockey team, I like the Krakens. If you look at a lot of these new teams, they've got the same fonts, the same logos. It's the same.
It's the same. I mean, they're cool, but it's like nothing really stands out. You know?
Yeah.
I feel that way with a lot of modern anime too. A lot of people are trying to be like the stuff they see on TV, or they want to draw like all the other anime, and it's like, why would you want to fall into such a
You have like a Bible for characters, pretty much.
Kind of, yes.
Because after a while,
I do have a lot of.
I mean, I am thrilled. Actually, everybody's going to get it. My friend David Gerald, he talked to me. He said, "You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give you a cameo in my next book, a walk-on."
Really?
I said I want to be a bad guy and I want to get killed. He said it'll be short, but it'll be very important. So everybody gets one. So
Sure, but
that's the beauty too. Like if you have
it.
somebody you don't like, you can draw them and have them squished by a spider.
You can't. Oh my gosh, I would so do that. There are a few people who, obviously, I'm not.
You don't mess with artists, singers, writers, anything else. So
they
you will
will-
meet a horrible death.
You're going. Something horrible is going to happen. Either you're going to be written about, sung about, drawn about.
I mean, the most I can do to people I don't like, for the most part, is, "Hey, you want to be on the podcast?"
And oh my gosh, but no, yes, that I actually never thought of it that way. Don't make an artist, songwriter, or writer angry, because they'll kill you.
Yeah.
I mean, fictionally, of course, but
Well, that's why I think like Taylor Swift. I mean, she had probably date and break up with herself to make her latest album, because what is she going to do to be miserable?
I
And
know,
it must
right?
get hard for some people. Well, I'm rich, I'm happy. How am I going to write about stuff?
yeah, there's nothing to write about anymore.
But did you, obviously your things, and I have many of your random pictures, like the ones I've gotten from you.
Yeah,
Yes, I'm a
I
patron
love
of
that
Stephanie's art, and I'm going to... But I love, like, this one. You can't see it on here, but we can put some of your pictures up.
Thank you.
I love, like, the design here where this looks vampiric almost.
Yeah, she's actually, I wouldn't even say a counterpart to my main character. She's a spirit who took up residence in my main character's body.
What was, like, your first thing you ever really drew, like, in terms of these?
A Black Rose?
Any of those? Or, like, what was your first drawings? Like, what were they, spiders?
They were not spiders, actually. I didn't find my love of spiders until, I'd say, fairly recently, within the past few years. But with Black Rose, my first drawings of this came about because I love the Baroque era, which is like, 1700s Marie Antoinette era. I fell in love with the fashion, and
I've been Baroque a lot in my life.
I am currently very Baroque, but I love the fashion of that era. And I was like, it would be cool to make a character kind of, in that era, but maybe kind of evil. So that's how I came up with Nicolette at first, but I changed her a lot. But
I think like Neil Gaiman for Sandman, the way he had Morpheus look was the same way, or like Desire. They would wear those old clothes like Victorian era, Baroque era.
Yep.
And did you get into that just from like art books, or was there somebody specific whose work you liked, or was it just from seeing the designs?
Just from seeing the designs overall, and then my wheel started spinning like, what if there was like a spirit or an evil creature that had like this look. You're familiar with Doctor Who. I know you're familiar with Doctor Who. Do you remember it was a David Tennant episode with the Clockwork Men?
Yes.
I thought of
Which
that.
is so sad,
Yeah,
because
it is
Sophia
sad.
Miles, the girl in the fireplace.
Yeah.
And I'm Waiting for You, My Lost Angel. And just
I know.
it really summed up the Doctor's loneliness, and how I think he said to his companions even, I regenerate, you die, and I'll wait for you, and then he doesn't come back. Because he was the romantic Doctor.
He was very
really
romantic.
was. Like, he told Sarah Jane about that.
Yeah.
And there was all that sort of, like, you realized he was like a lonely traveler. So now we're going to just go off about Doctor Who for an hour.
We
because
could.
of you.
But
yeah, the Baroque Clockwork.
The Clockwork Men, I guess, would be my first inspiration, because when I was a kid and saw that episode for the first time, I couldn't sleep. They terrified me. But as I got older and matured more, I realized, oh my gosh, that is such a great idea. And then I just started researching the clothes and everything more, and I'm like, I have to do something.
I mean, it's a little almost like borders on steampunk, but it isn't.
Almost.
And steampunk's a weird genre because it's like the writings of Michael Moorcock, especially, where it's almost adding like Victorian to sci-fi. It's like Victorian sci-fi almost. You have the Zeppelins and all the dress.
Yep.
And I think the cool part of it's about the dress, really, if you do that right.
Yes.
You know.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Black Rose, it takes place in Paris.
Yeah, what is just in a nutshell, what's sort of Black Rose about?
It's about Nicolette, who discovers, unfortunately too late, that the spirit exists and wants to kill her and create a body for herself. She doesn't want to take over Nicolette's body. She wants one for herself. And she's kind of been feeding off Nicolette's very strong emotions to gain strength. But now she wants to kill her. And now Nicolette has to figure out, oh my God, what am I going to do?
It's a lot of classic fantasy. There's elements of Jeff Smith's Bowen in it, Wendy Penny's Elf Quest. Mm-hmm. That's what your art reminds you a little bit, but it's different. A little bit like Elf Quest, but not like it's your own. That's the beauty of it, too, is I think Artie Shaw, the musician, once said sometimes the best musicians are the ones who steal the most. We borrow from so many different things. Like when I wrote my first story, I looked at it and said, well, it's a piss poor Ray Bradbury story. But then what you do is, like, even I think he said, or one writer said, you take a style, you go on, then you make it your own.
Yeah.
And I think you've made this, I think because you've had that independence about this, you made everything your own like that.
I've definitely tried, and I'm still trying. I'm not by any means perfect. I feel like I'm still discovering
But you
my
challenge
style.
yourself, and I think I like that. In terms of, would there be something really difficult for you to draw, like a style, like something?
Landscapes are kind of difficult for me to do. And I'm trying to get into watercolor. Watercolor I struggle with a bit. But a style that would be extremely difficult are, at the State Fair, those caricatures, those super exaggerated ones?
Yeah.
That would be way too hard for me to do.
You could always, do one, just keep it to yourself.
I could try, and keep it away from the world.
Yeah, but we all love our children like that. We have favorites. Do you have a favorite out of your characters?
Of course, yeah, I do. And I love all my characters, just because I'm saying this is my favorite.
We asked Caitlin this about coyotes, and it's like, come on, we know this one you like.
And it is hard because now I think I have a slight inkling of what it's like to be a parent. But my favorite character is, her name's Liliana. She is definitely one of the more unique characters I have. She has a very interesting story. She has a really weird personality. She's not evil, but she's capable of the most evil out of my human characters, at least.
That's sort of good. Like
she did kill
it's like
someone.
Almost again. And I know you're not a fan as much. I love Daenerys, but
yes, of course.
And I know your views on Game of Thrones, and I agree with them. They're not wrong. But some of the characters, like if you go through with your books. Mm-hmm. You look at some and go, well, I think this person's horrible, but then all of a sudden you look later on and go, this person's not as bad.
Not as bad as I thought.
But then this person, they were good. No, wait a second, they're pretty rotten.
Your perspectives change, and I think what makes Liliana kind of a unique character is people are mixed on her. Some people really, really like her, and some people are not a fan of her or what she did.
Well, I think what happens, too, is, and I found this from my own writing, is you will start and you'll know what you're going to do. Then they take a life of your own. You'll start part A. By the time you get to part B and C, it's completely, you map it out, but then all of a sudden, no, it changes as you go. So that's what happens.
And I think that's really cool because I think it shows the development of not only your characters, but yourself as a writer, as a storyteller. Because if your characters are growing, that means you're growing with them.
And also, not only that, but I've heard most people, they'll look back at their first story or their first music. You'll hear some great musicians say, man, that, the Beatles, when they first played, they weren't the Beatles. They were the Silver Beatles. Nobody knew. There was some guys, like for me, going down to the bug jar scene in the pub. They weren't anybody. And they really, till they went to Hamburg, they weren't that good. And I think most people, like a lot of famous writers, will say, man, that stuff I first wrote, that sucked.
Yes. I feel the same. My first draft of Black Rose, I was like, this isn't good.
It's like Joe Lansdale, who's one of my favorite authors. I read one of his first books, the difference between what he first wrote and what he writes now, because you build on him. That's what I always hate when people ever say, John Byrne, the comic writer, one time, comic artist, writer, lost me because he said one thing, well, I just get my style, then I really stopped years ago trying. And once you stop growing...
But you never stop growing is the thing. You never stop growing, you just give up.
And I know so many people, so many musicians, artists in their 20s or early 30s, and you think the level they're doing now, how like in like many years from now, how what you'll be doing, it might be the same thing, it might be different, but then you might be looking back at this going, this was good, but this is...
Or this is better, or not even better or worse, just different.
But have you ever like looked into like maybe with your mom's store too? Have you done like poster art, like for posters or graphic designs? Or...
I mean, the stuff this is the closest I have to posters. But I'm trying to get more exposure, so maybe people.
And not only that, but like you do all these yourself. You laminate them, and they're always really cool. I have my own little neat collection.
Yeah, I'm so glad. But with my mom, there was a design I did for our local church, St. Mark's, and then with her business, she was able to digitize it and put it on bags. So,
speaking of that, your mom's business and how much... Now, I have to say, one of my things, exposure to T-shirt design, everything, you're too young, darn it. Just by a couple years.
Too young for what?
Ask your mom about this, fabric crayons.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, we used to do these in grade school. You would draw them on a piece of acrylic paper or something. I have no idea. You would iron them on a T-shirt. My drawing, okay, this is like a confession too. One of my first drawings was the Yankee symbol.
Was it really?
Yeah, so it's like, so now it's sort of like, it's almost like my turn to Darth Vader for you, knowing a little bit that, yes, I used to do like Yankee symbols and stuff. Wow. My mom was a fan of WPX, and then it all went, there could be a movie about that. You were the chosen one. What happened?
What happened, Rob? You started with
and I drew
Yankees.
like a neat little like dragon. It said drag on with a car. And I realized I could draw a little bit when I was younger, and then it just went down the toilet.
As my mom always says, things always look worse before they get better. That's what we were saying when we were cleaning my room a few months ago.
But talk about now, this is also something you're involved in, your mom's business, and who will guess, sort of somebody out there will know, Make It So, what's that from? SEW.
SEW, make it SEW, make it so. And there were actually a few different names, but the family voted, and we were like,
it's
make
catchy.
It so. It's
catchy. People come in and laugh about it though, a little bit like,
Some people recognize, especially people at conventions and stuff, those people will know exactly where it's from because, geek culture.
Yo.
But my mom,
favorite.
Right? But she has a commercial embroidery machine, a heat press. We do vinyl, screen printing, heat press embroidery, all sorts of stuff.
No, that's amazing. Now, do you do this too? Do you know all about how to do this?
I'm learning. She definitely knows the business inside and out, and I'm like,
Come here, grasshopper here.
Right. I know a fraction of that, but she...
but that's how you learn. You apprentice, and you know from somebody who knows what they're doing.
I'm usually her driver. Like, if she needs something delivered out to Henrietta, I'm like, I'll go. I volunteer as tribute. So, it's really cool, but she can sew, too. Like, she was making masks, these past
That's the thing I was going to
months.
ask in terms of what happened when this started. Did you have to close?
No, because the business is out of our house, so we could...
if you had to close your house, that would be kind of...
That'd be
I mean, there's been some extreme things here.
But that would be, a little...
But we're closed. Well, you can have chicken wings, but we'll starve. They're not food.
I wish I could eat chicken wings and, it just be empty calories. That would be amazing. But, we have a box outside our house where people can pick up and we can drop off, so they don't have to come inside if, they don't...
We adapt, though. See, but have you gotten, in terms of masks, are there funny designs? Or,
yeah.
I will say, when my friend Adriana played out, it wasn't a fix either. I had a Rocky and Bullwinkle one. I won a prize for these masks.
That's funny. But
people ask, do you have, did your mom pick different designs?
Different fabrics. Like Hello Kitty or...
jeez.
But yeah, we have different designs and stuff, but because it was so hard to get fabric for a while, we were limited to kind of what we had in the house, which was a lot, but still.
This has been going on for how many years? How long has your mom had
My mom has had this business for, I believe, 7 years, 7, 8 years now. So it's been a while, and she's doing great.
Yeah, it's a good niche industry, and I love like talking with you about it, like about shirts, maybe eventually for the show.
Yeah.
And like you like the idea you tell people, and you're really smart about it. Okay, color. People don't think about it. People, I think, I found like outside of my businesses, when people talk to me, that a lot of times they don't know what they're talking about because they've never done it,
Right.
but they think they do. Sometimes.
They think they do.
And the idea of like a shirt, okay, black and white and color are very different.
They are very
And I
different.
do know this a little bit from Steve Litvak, because his drummer does like shirts for his band. Okay, depends. And also, when you shouldn't have like a, cornucopia of things on the shirt. You should catch the eye, and I think that's another thing in terms. I think it plays into your art too, where you learn things from shirt design about what catches the eye. It's not too cluttered.
Or vice versa from shirt design.
And things mean something too. Like, you might not think, but like some symbol you put in because you like it, but something like a rose or something else that might just be there for
effect. Yeah, you have to be conscious. Like, I mean, my mom can put whatever you want on a T-shirt, but it's up to whoever makes the logo and stuff to, because more colors or more complex design is.
You design. Not everything you want, because not like a big bowl of cherries on top. You can just set it on there or something.
Can't always know.
But as you've got, and nothing weird, I hope. But has anybody asked for something really sort of funny or strange? Nothing perverted, please. It's something
nothing
funny.
perverted. But we have had funny things. Like, there were birthday shirts my mom made for someone, and it was like 50, the ultimate F word or something. And my mom she doesn't like to swear or anything, and she was on a bowling team, and their names were Shut the F up and Bowl, and she didn't want to put the actual F-bomb
some advice
on it.
for your mom: never play bingo, because I used to go with my mom, and you would hear in unison some of those games, the ones that went long. I've never heard so many senior citizens utter F-bombs as loud when somebody called bingo.
My mom and my grandma used to go to bingo all the time, and my mom bowled at Dewey Gardens. Trust me, she has been
my mom.
more
I remember
than
the
exposed.
days. I was like, I go see my mom bowl. She bowled at Terrace. Dewey, my dad bowled at Dewey.
Yeah.
And I remember the good old days. Yeah, this is a sport. They're drinking Manhattans and smoking like chimneys. Yeah. My time to go up there.
It's like, wait, I can't see the
I
screen.
grew up in there. I grew up in Dewey Gardens, because what would happen is
too.
my dad would bowl, and they'd let me loose, and I'd go play the video games. So I sort of grew up at Dewey.
I grew up at Gates Bowl when they. You're familiar with Gates?
Yeah, I used to bowl in Gates too. Yeah.
When they had the covering for the bar and everything.
Yeah.
I remember when people would still smoke in there, and honestly, I know this is also kind of an unpopular opinion. I kind of miss smoking in bowling alleys, because I guess it's a lot of nostalgia.
Well, you know
for
what my
me.
mom said too. Like some of her friends said, it's a working man's pleasure. They get out and everything else, and some of that. I mean, I have my own opinions from working at bars, because it would stick to my clothes.
Yeah.
But sometimes, she said, some people, they're having fun. What's the bad part about you being a Puritan? People have their own lives and everything else, and it's one of those topics where the world changes, and what can you do about it? In bowling too, bowling's died. I remember going to my dentist, and his sister's secretary, and they were on the line about trying to get a bowl. They couldn't even get people for teams anymore.
I know.
And I used to go to Gates.
Well, they make bowling so expensive.
Oh yeah. What we used to do is every Thanksgiving we would go bowl. Like every Sunday morning we would go bowling.
Oh, how fun!
And my parents were in leagues. I was in a league actually, finished in first and in last at Terrace.
Wow!
So it was like one of those where.
Have you ever had a 300 before?
Somebody in our league bowled it.
Really?
Yeah.
My younger brother.
I had a 300 over 3 games before.
Right, same. But my brother, he's had a 300 game.
We had a
before.
kid, and
It was
I can't believe he did it, because unfortunately word got around he was doing it, right?
Yeah.
So people were coming down and watching him. Can you imagine? But he did it.
Wow.
So
that's crazy. The amount of concentration you need is insane.
I was very erratic, where I could I'd blow 6 strikes, then I would miss an easy spare. That was me. I never was consistent. I could go, if I was hot, I was hot. And I remember people would do a cheat in the league when we started, because they try to get your average. So it's like tank the game. And my friend, just to get the lower average, so we go up. But for me, our friend going, no, I'm not tanking it. I would have one of those days, especially on some of the alleys at Terrace in the back, where I couldn't hit those alleys at all.
Gosh.
So that's why I was never consistent, I suppose. I think if you're a pro in that and golf,
Yeah.
I mean, like when you're doing your art, you could fix it up if you mess it up.
fix it,
and have
yeah.
you done that before where you just, this just isn't going right, I'm going to...
Sometimes I'll scrap it and go back to it like a week or two or even months later.
But,
And
I mean,
then,
I really look forward to seeing, like, the evolution of what you're doing. It's been
thank
really
you.
cool and fun. And plus, who knows what else? You might be, like, a professional skydiver in a few years, the way you find
Who knows? I
Because
might.
you're like me a lot like that. Like, you'll find an interest. I was just actually talking about getting back into astronomy, not astrology or whatever.
That would be cool, though. It's always good to have interest, and thank you so much for, supporting my business.
Well,
and
that's the
everything.
endorsement. It's like I tell musicians, I don't just support it. It don't suck.
Don't suck. Just don't
And
suck.
Just
don't be-
No,
just
it's
don't do
good. I
stupid
always,
things.
if it's good, that's and whatever it is good. But I hope you had fun here.
This was great, Rob.
And the
Thank
thing
you so
about
much.
this now, okay, we plug everything. So in terms of, and we'll try to get the information up on the website and everything else, because I mean, we can't talk visual on here. We have
Right.
art. We'll get some pictures of your art.
That sounds awesome.
But
Thank
okay,
you.
in terms of if they want to go to your mom's shop, tell us about it a little
Yeah.
bit. Like how do you get to her? Where is it? We'll put the business card up on.
Oh
the
yeah,
line.
and the address is there and
Yeah.
everything.
You make an
Awesome.
appointment or just go down, or especially remember during these funny times, it might be a little different.
Yeah, it's best to just call her or email her, leave her a message, and then you can set something up, or you can just do it over the phone.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's neat.
so-
In terms of now for you, you were actually going to be teaching.
Yes. I have a gig at the Greece Community Center next month, but I also do private art lessons for adults, for kids.
I can see you if I tried it, you'd be like that guy at Whiplash, like hit me with a Twizzler when I was a Twizzler.
Rude. Do you at least get to eat the Twizzler?
But I can see that. Oh, is that line in front or back? Is it in front now?
Rude. But yeah, and I also hope to teach classes at the Gates Community Center before quarantine happened. I was supposed to teach there, but I'm also getting in touch with the Hilton and Penfield.
See, I mean, for me, I can't give my opinion on schools. I'll say about schools in the fall. I know, like for example, like in college, Fisher's going to be open in August till Thanksgiving, and I trust they'll do whatever. And it's just one of those things where I always say, don't get mad about it because you really, you can do what you can, and you can have your views one way or another, but what's going to happen is going to happen, and it's going to impact people's lives in a way. So hopefully that's the thing. Who would ever think, well, I'm going to teach, well, can I? We have to wear masks, whatever. And you can have a policy too, like with the kids, like if you get near them, you have to wear a mask or
That
anything else.
is going to be on a more, I won't require it, but if
Yeah, you're
they
away from them. You're far away, yeah.
You're far away from them, but if
Well, how are you going to, talk anyways, teach like that too, obviously?
yeah, it'd be a little difficult. So I've got a couple
Yeah.
ideas.
Well,
in
you
place.
have, the big thing, the projector, so they can see what you're doing.
I should have a projector, honestly.
No, I thought about that. Are you just gonna? Because I thought you would draw it and maybe see it on a projector.
Well, because I'm
Don't let me tell you how to do. You know a lot more than me.
Well, when I teach my kids, I have this big pad of paper that I prop up in the front of the room, and I draw on that, and in obviously dark colors so they can see. But then I'll go around to them individually, see how
Are
they're
you going
doing.
to give them any eggs, draw an animal or something, or draw?
We're not. This is more or less a whirlwind crash course in anime.
on anime.
So
Which I know nothing. I know Studio Ghibli, but
Studio Ghibli.
I always grew up being a comic person. We always hated anime because we hate how they draw superheroes. But then I got into, especially with Caitlin, got into seeing all the Studio Ghibli movies, and I love all that stuff. It's just utterly,
fun.
And Miyazaki's he is beyond
brilliant.
an artist.
He's brilliant.
He retires for the 50th time.
He's
this year.
retired for the 50th time.
Chain smoking. He's 80s chain smoking away. He's like a workaholic, but he's brilliant, and
brilliant.
I love it. And when I was really with my dad a couple of years ago, and I couldn't do anything, I blew through all the Studio Ghibli, and it would be, this is my favorite. No, this is my favorite. And
now it's this one.
That one, the way they use watercolor in this, it's incredible. So
I used to hate the movie Spirited Away because No Face gave me nightmares and terrified me. But now I'm like, oh, he's kind
It's
of
great.
cute.
It's the first one I actually saw.
He's so
too.
creepy.
So it's special. He was kind of creepy, wasn't he?
A little bit. I still.
Well, some of those can be quite, they ain't for kids a little bit.
I mean, I remember this post on Facebook. Someone said, what was a movie that traumatized you as a kid? Like, a horror movie that traumatized you as a kid. And I commented the movie The Brave Little Toaster. And my friend, she commented, that's not a horror movie. I'm like, to me it was. It was terrifying.
Oh,
it was
yeah.
creepy.
And I mean, also, too, like, you could find you and your mom out usually, like, I mean, maybe, like, eventually, like, comic conventions sometime. Mm-hmm. Maybe not for a while this year.
But we've both done some conventions before.
And you're around, and there's other places, but check it out. It's really all good and everything.
Definitely will.
It's very good having you on. Might see you again in some ways.
Yeah, I hope so. This is great. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
And we usually end like with something. A lot of times, like I promote my friends with music unless you want to start singing.
I don't know how to sing.
See, why don't you start that next opera? But one of my last shows, again, was I went to see Michaela Davis in Albany. And it was, again, I told this story with Greg. It was just before, it was like the 12th. And I was debating, I heard this stuff this was downstate, it was in Albany.
Yeah.
So this is like, you ever meet one of your idols and you didn't even realize it and you flip out?
No.
So, well, there's a band playing called the Dust Bowl Faeries. So they were really good. They sounded like Rasputina, which is a favorite band of mine.
Very cool.
So I met the singer and I said, you sound like Rasputina. Oh, I was in there, and I said, embarrassing. You were Rasputina. I'm like messaging friends. I met somebody from Rasputina. So I asked her about in terms of like playing their music, and we always have to ask on here, and we get in trouble anyways, but it doesn't matter. It's like we show you art. But this is from the Dust Bowl Faeries. It's a dark ride. It's called. They're very like goth, sort of eerie, creepy.
Very cool.
You could actually draw like if they did a comic book.
I'd love to, yeah.
But I'm going to play the track Seasick Moon. And check them out online. Faeries is spelled Faeries. So it's been fun and cool. And thanks for coming down. And bye-bye.
Thank you for having me. Bye. Bye, everyone.
I've dreamed there's another world where we can land like seasick ships. As soon as I've found to that which I'm bound, I promise to bear my soul unto thee. Horse-drawn carriages reversing terrors and corridors narrow behold. So salty you swoon, and thawing I croon under the seasick moon, under the moon. Under the moon. Far, far away in the air, there's a ladder spun of hair, tumbling down to the bottomless sea. Though we've traveled through salt thickened crystals of youth's fallen wishes, oh master, oh missus, remember you're young, of wilderness spun. Now you're the carnival tailor, hidden in sheets well stitched without any hitches. The show's on the road, no time for guessing. May as well trust in the entrails left. The scene's almost over, but don't be afraid. I'm only a circus mermaid, a sideshow act who runs to her trailer as soon as the curtains close. Curtains close. The curtains close. Undiscovered we hover as if we were lovers. The show's almost over, don't go. I'm just a mermaid.